The Grand Assembly Hall floated in the darkness of space like a jewel. It was massive, bigger than most cities, and it orbited a star that belonged to no one. Inside, the hall stretched so far that the ceiling disappeared into shadows. Lights from 1,000 different worlds glowed in every color imaginable. The air hummed with voices speaking in languages that no human throat could make. Hyun sat in the back corner and watched. He was a human diplomat, though no one in this grand place seemed to care. His hair was turning gray at the temples and his eyes looked tired. He had been coming to these meetings for 3 years now. 3 years of sitting in the back. 3 years of being ignored. Next to him sat Bora. She was younger, maybe 30 years old, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She wore the uniform of Earth's military, but it looked plain compared to the gleaming armor worn by the warrior races around them. She kept her back straight and her face calm, even when the aliens stared at her like she was a pet. On Hyun's other side was Taeyang. He was old, probably the oldest human in the room, with white hair and gentle hands. He spent most of his time looking at a small tablet, reading data that scrolled across the screen. He rarely looked up at the spectacle around them. The assembly hall was full today. Representatives from hundreds of alien species had come for the annual Summit of Civilizations. This was where the powerful races showed off. This was where empires reminded everyone else who ruled the galaxy. At the front of the hall, a massive creature stood on the speaking platform. It was a Vraxian, one of the reptile people who controlled 17 star systems. Its scales were deep red, almost the color of blood, and it stood 3 times taller than any human. When it spoke, its voice boomed through the hall like thunder. The Vraxian Empire has expanded once more, it announced. Its teeth were like knives, and they showed when it smiled. 3 new worlds now bow to our strength. 3 new systems feed our fleets. We are unstoppable. We are eternal. The other aliens in the hall made sounds of approval. Some clapped. Some made clicking noises. Some just glowed brighter. The Vraxian bowed and returned to its seat, looking very pleased with itself. Next came the Keltharians. They were not just one creature, but thousands, all connected by one mind. The drones floated onto the platform like a silver cloud. When they spoke, all their voices merged into one eerie sound. We have terraformed 6 planets this cycle, the Keltharian hive announced. Barren rocks now bloom with life. Dead worlds now breathe. Our knowledge grows. Our reach expands. More approval from the crowd. More sounds of respect and envy. Then the Osium Dominion took the platform. They were beings made of crystal and light. Creatures that lived as pure energy most of the time. They had no real body, just a shape they chose to wear. Their representative shimmered like a rainbow. We have bent space-time itself, the Osium said. Its voice sounded like singing. We have created gateways between stars. Travel that once took years now takes days. We have made the impossible real. The hall erupted in amazement. Species turned to each other, discussing this incredible achievement. The Osium glowed brighter, feeding on the admiration. Hours passed. One by one, the great civilizations presented their achievements. New weapons, new technologies, new conquests. Each one tried to outdo the last. Each one demanded respect and awe. Finally, near the end of the session, the speaker of the assembly looked toward the back corner. Its eyes, all 6 of them, focused on the 3 humans sitting there quietly. And now, the speaker said, Earth will present. The hall went quiet, but it was not the silence of respect. It was the silence before laughter. Hyun stood slowly. He walked to the front, his footsteps echoing in the sudden stillness. Bora and Taeyang stayed seated. When Hyun reached the platform, he looked out at the hundreds of alien faces staring at him. Some looked amused. Some looked bored. Most looked like they were waiting for a joke. Earth would like to pass this year, Hyun said simply. His voice was calm and even. We have nothing to present at this time. For a moment, nothing happened. Then someone laughed. It was a harsh barking sound. Then another joined in. Then another. Within seconds, the entire hall was filled with laughter. The Vraxian ambassador stood up, its huge body shaking with amusement. Nothing to present, it roared. Tell me, little human, have you finally realized the truth? You are children here, children watching adults work. Perhaps you should go home and play while the real civilizations handle important matters. More laughter. Louder this time. A voice from the Keltharian hive cut through the noise. Humanity has been part of the coalition for 30 years. 30 years, and what have you accomplished? You control one star system, one. You have brought us no new technology, no new worlds, no new strength. You contribute nothing. The Osium representative shimmered forward. Even its voice, usually so musical, carried mockery. Perhaps we made a mistake. Perhaps humanity was admitted too early as an act of charity. Perhaps you need another 1,000 years before you are ready to stand with us. Hyun stood there and took it all. He did not argue. He did not defend. He just waited until the laughter died down, which took a long time. We understand, he said finally. May we return to our seats? The speaker waved a dismissive tentacle. Yes, yes. Go sit down. Hyun walked back to the corner. Every step felt long. Every eye in the hall watched him with contempt or pity or amusement. When he sat down, Bora glanced at him. Her jaw was tight, her hands clenched into fists under the table. But she said nothing. Taeyang had never looked up from his tablet. His fingers kept scrolling through data like nothing had happened. The summit continued. Other species presented. Other achievements were celebrated. The humans in the back corner were forgotten again. Just 3 small figures in a hall full of giants. As the session finally ended and species began to leave, conversations buzzed through the hall. Most were about the incredible Osium technology or the Vraxian conquests. Some were about trade agreements and military alliances. A few were about the humans. Jokes mostly, comments about how pathetic Earth looked, bets on how long before humanity gave up and withdrew from the coalition entirely, predictions that humans would be extinct within a few centuries, unable to compete in a galaxy full of superior beings. Hyun gathered his things slowly. Bora stood, her uniform crisp despite sitting for hours. Taeyang finally closed his tablet and tucked it under his arm. Another successful summit, Taeyang said quietly. His voice was dry, almost amused. They never change, Bora muttered. Her anger was barely controlled. No, Hyun agreed. They don't. They walked toward the exit together, 3 humans leaving a hall full of hundreds. No one said goodbye to them. No one acknowledged them at all. They were already forgotten, dismissed as the weakest link in a chain of mighty civilizations. As they boarded their small shuttle to return to the human diplomatic ship, Bora finally spoke again. How much longer do we have to endure this? Hyun looked out the viewport at the stars beyond. As long as it takes. For what? She asked. Taeyang answered, still looking at his tablet. For them to need us. The shuttle pulled away from the grand assembly hall, carrying the 3 humans back into the darkness. Behind them, the hall glowed bright, full of species that thought they ruled the galaxy. None of them knew what was coming. None of them understood what humanity really was. Not yet. 3 weeks passed after the summit. Life in the coalition continued as normal. The powerful species went about their business, expanding their territories, building their fleets, making their plans. Earth's 3 diplomats returned to their quiet routines, attending minor meetings that no one else cared about, filing reports that few bothered to read. Then, on a Tuesday morning by Earth's calendar, everything changed. The emergency signal cut through every communication channel in coalition space. It did not ask permission. It did not wait for proper protocols. It simply screamed across the stars, loud and desperate and terrified. Hyun was drinking coffee when the alert came through. The cup fell from his hand and shattered on the floor, but he barely noticed. His entire office lit up with red warning lights. Every screen showed the same thing. Priority Alpha distress call. He ran to the command center. Bora was already there, her face pale as she listened to the transmission. Taeyang arrived seconds later, moving faster than Hyun had ever seen the old man move. Play it, Hyun ordered. The main screen flickered to life. What they saw made their blood run cold. The transmission came from a Vraxian ship, one of their massive warships that could destroy a planet if it wanted to. But the proud warrior on the screen looked nothing like the confident ambassador they had seen at the summit. This Vraxian's scales were pale with fear. Its eyes were wide. Behind it, alarms screamed and crew members ran in panic. "This is Battle Commander Vrex of the Vraxian Forward Fleet," the warrior gasped. "We are under attack in Sector 447 of the Outer Frontier. Unknown hostiles. Repeat, unknown hostiles. They are not ships. I repeat, they are not ships. They are alive. Thousands of them. They are everywhere. We cannot." The transmission shook. Something huge moved past the viewport behind the commander. Something dark and massive and wrong. The lights on the ship flickered. Screams echoed in the background. "Request immediate assistance from all coalition forces," the commander continued. Its voice was breaking. "We have 30 warships and 5 colony vessels. We have 10,000 warriors. We have weapons that can crack moons. But they keep coming. An explosion rocked the ship. The commander fell. When it stood back up, there was purple blood on its face. "They are eating the hull," it whispered. "They are eating through the metal. Nothing stops them." Nothing. The screen went dark. The transmission ended. The silence that followed was absolute. Hyun stared at the blank screen. The Vraxian forward fleet was the third most powerful military force in the entire coalition. They had conquered worlds. They had never lost a battle, and something had just wiped them out in minutes. "Get me the council," Hyun said quietly. "Now." Within an hour, the Emergency Coalition Council convened. It was not like the Grand Summit. This was serious. Species connected through hologram from their home worlds, their faces tight with fear. The Vraxian High Commander was there, its scales darker than usual. "We have lost contact with our forward fleet," it said. Its voice was hard, but Hyun could hear the pain underneath. 30 ships, 5,000 warriors, 3,000 civilians on the colony vessels, all gone. No further transmissions, nothing. "What attacked them?" the Osium representative asked. Its light flickered nervously. "We do not know," the commander admitted. "The transmission showed creatures, living things. But we cannot identify the species. They are not in any database." The Keltharian hive spoke next, its multiple voices anxious. "We must investigate. We must know what destroyed such a powerful fleet." "Agreed," said the Osium. "But who will go? If the Vraxian military could not survive, who among us can?" Silence fell over the council. Every species looked at each other, waiting for someone else to volunteer. No one did. The fear was too great. Finally, Hyun cleared his throat. Every hologram turned to look at him. He could see the surprise on their faces. They had forgotten the humans were even on the call. "Earth volunteers to send a response team," Hyun said calmly. "We will investigate the situation and attempt to rescue any survivors." For 3 seconds, no one reacted. Then the Vraxian High Commander made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. "It was hard to tell, the commander said. "You think you can help? The mightiest fleet in my empire was destroyed. My finest warriors fell. And you, with your one small system and your primitive ships, think you can do better?" Other species joined in. The Keltharian hive's voices buzzed with something close to laughter. "This is absurd. Humanity can barely defend their own planet. What can they possibly do against a threat that destroyed a Vraxian fleet?" The Osium representative glowed brightly. "Perhaps the humans do not understand the scale of this threat. Commander Vrex was a legendary warrior. His fleet had weapons that could level continents. If they fell, humanity would last seconds." Hyun waited for the mockery to die down. Bora stood beside him, her face calm but her hands clenched. Taeyang was already typing on his tablet, sending messages to someone. "Nevertheless," Hyun said, "Earth volunteers. We have experience with threats like this." That statement made everyone pause. The Vraxian commander leaned forward. "Experience? What experience could you possibly have?" Bora stepped forward. When she spoke, her voice was steady and clear. "Humanity volunteers because we have fought things like this before. We know how to handle it." "Impossible," the Keltharian hive said. "There is no record of humanity engaging in any major conflict since joining the coalition." "That's correct," Bora agreed. "There is no record of conflict since we joined. What happened before that is our own history." Taeyang looked up from his tablet. His old eyes were sharp and focused. "We have already contacted our response fleet. They are preparing to deploy. They will be in position at the outer frontier within 48 hours. The council erupted in noise. Species talked over each other, arguing about whether to allow this. Most thought it was suicide. Some thought it was a waste of time. A few thought humans were simply too stupid to understand the danger. The Vraxian High Commander raised a clawed hand for silence. When everyone quieted, it looked directly at Hyun. "You understand that we cannot send support? No coalition species is willing to risk their forces for what may be a lost cause." "We understand," Hyun said. "You understand that if you fail, if you are destroyed, the coalition will not mourn. You will have thrown away your lives for nothing. We understand. The commander was quiet for a long moment. Then it nodded slowly. Then go. Go and die if you must. We will not stop you. Perhaps your sacrifice will give us information about what we face. The way it said sacrifice made it clear. The commander did not expect any humans to return alive. One more thing, Taiyang said. His fingers moved across his tablet. We are transmitting coordinates now. We request that coalition observation drones follow our fleet. We want you to see what happens. The Osium representative flickered with confusion. You want us to watch your destruction? Why? So you know what we brought, Bora said simply. The council agreed, mostly because they were curious. They wanted to see how quickly humanity would fall. They wanted to measure this unknown threat by how fast it killed the humans. It was cold logic, but no one pretended otherwise. The call ended. The holograms disappeared one by one. Soon only the 3 humans remained in their command center. Bora let out a long breath. They think we are going to die. Yes, Hyun said. They do. Good, Taiyang said, still typing on his tablet. Let them think that. The surprise will be better. Hyun walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there in the darkness beyond the frontier, something had killed thousands of Vraxian warriors. Something hungry. Something dangerous, but Hyun was not afraid. He had seen Earth's response fleet. He knew what was coming. He knew what humanity had brought from their home world, what they had kept secret for 30 years. The galaxy was about to learn something new about humans. They were about to learn why Earth had been so quiet, so humble, so careful. They were about to learn what lurked behind the 3 quiet diplomats in the back of every meeting. Hyun smiled just a little. It was not a kind smile. Contact the Aegis, he told Bora. Tell them to wake up the assets, all of them. Bora's eyes widened slightly, then she nodded. All of them? Even the big ones? Especially the big ones, Hyun confirmed. It is time the galaxy met our friends. Taeyang closed his tablet and stood. 48 hours, he said softly. 48 hours until they see the truth. The 3 humans stood together, looking out at the stars, waiting for their fleet to arrive. Behind them, Earth was already moving. Ships were launching. Habitats were opening. Creatures that had been sleeping were waking up. Hungry and eager. The coalition thought they were sending humans to die. They had no idea they were unleashing something far worse than whatever killed the Vraxian fleet. The countdown had begun. 48 hours passed slowly for the coalition. Every species watched their sensors, waiting to see what would happen. The observation drones had been sent ahead, floating in the darkness near where the Vraxian fleet had vanished. Their cameras were ready to record everything. In the Grand Assembly Hall, a special viewing room had been set up. Representatives from dozens of species gathered to watch. Most came out of curiosity. Some came hoping to learn about the threat. A few came simply to see how quickly the humans would die. The Vraxian High Commander was there, standing tall but with shoulders heavy with grief. Its fleet was gone. Its warriors were dead. It did not expect the humans to change that. But it watched anyway because even a warrior's pride demanded witness to those who tried, however foolish. The Keltharian hive filled one corner of the room, their drones buzzing quietly with anxious energy. The Osium representative floated near the front, its crystalline form dim with worry. Other species crowded in, their various eyes and sensors fixed on the large display screens. The screens showed the edge of the outer frontier. Empty space, dark, silent. The graveyard of the Vraxian fleet was somewhere beyond, too far for the cameras to see yet. Then the sensors picked up something. Ships entering the area. The human fleet had arrived. Visual incoming, someone announced. The screens flickered and focused. What appeared made the entire viewing room go silent. The lead ship was massive. The UHSF Aegis, according to the identification signal. It was bigger than any ship the humans had ever shown before. Bigger than Vraxian dreadnoughts. Its hull was dark gray, almost black, and covered in strange markings that no coalition engineer recognized. Weapon ports lined its sides far more than any normal carrier should have. Flanking the Aegis were 12 destroyers. They moved in perfect formation, their designs unlike anything in the coalition database. Their weapons were wrong. Huge rail cannons that seemed excessive, missile batteries that could launch hundreds at once, and strange electromagnetic arrays that pulsed with barely contained energy. Where did they get those ships? The Osium representative whispered. We have never seen humanity build anything like that. They've been hiding their strength, the Keltharian hive buzzed. But it won't matter. Ships alone cannot defeat what killed our Vraxian friends. Then the sensors detected the other ships, 6 of them following behind the military vessels. These were not warships. They were enormous habitat modules, each one the size of a small city. The readings confused everyone. What are those? Someone asked. A coalition analyst checked the data. The sensors show ecosystems inside: water, atmosphere, vegetation, and life signs. Thousands of life signs. They brought colony ships to a battle? The Vraxian commander's voice was thick with disbelief. What are they thinking? Taeyang's voice came through the communication channel, calm and professional. Coalition observers, please maintain your distance. We are about to deploy our assets. Assets, the Osium representative said. What assets? The habitat ships rotated slowly. Their massive bay doors began to open. The cameras zoomed in, and every species in the viewing room leaned forward to see what was inside. What emerged made them all take a step back. Creatures. Living creatures. Not robots. Not drones. Living things that moved with horrible grace through the vacuum of space. The first ones out were serpentine, their bodies stretching hundreds of meters long. Their scales shimmered with colors that changed and shifted, blue to green to purple to black. Patterns of light ran along their bodies, bioluminescent and beautiful and terrifying. Their heads were massive, with eyes that glowed like stars and jaws that could swallow a shuttle hole. What in the void? Someone breathed. More creatures emerged. These had wings, enormous wings that caught the distant starlight and reflected it in rainbow patterns. Their bodies were insectoid but wrong, as if someone had taken the idea of an insect and made it into a nightmare. Each one was as large as a frigate. Weapons grew from their bodies, spikes, barbs, things that looked like biological cannons. They flew through space as easily as birds flew through air. Then came the ones that made even the bravest warrior feel fear. Massive bodies of muscle and tentacles, each appendage longer than a destroyer. They moved like they were swimming through water instead of vacuum. Their skin was dark, almost invisible against space, and where the starlight touched them, they seemed to absorb it. Hooks lined their tentacles. Beaks big enough to crush ships opened and closed slowly. Deploy Leviathan-class Titans, Taeyang's voice announced. Deploy Dragon-class aerial interceptors. Deploy Kraken-class deep void hunters. All assets at full combat readiness. The viewing room erupted in chaos. Species shouted questions. Some demanded explanations. Others simply stared in horror at the screens. What are those things? The Keltharian hive's voices rose to a shriek. Hyun's face appeared on the communication channel. His tired eyes looked directly at the camera. Those, he said quietly, are what humanity brought from Earth. We have been asking ourselves a question for 30 years. What can we offer the coalition? What can we bring that no one else has? Now you see the answer. The creatures arranged themselves around the human fleet. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands. The sensors could not get an accurate count because they kept moving, circling, hunting patterns that made coalition military analysts go pale. They are organized, the Vraxian commander said. Its voice shook slightly. They move like a pack, like a military unit. They are, Bora's voice cut in. Each creature is intelligent. Not as smart as us, but smart enough. They understand commands. They understand tactics. And they understand how to kill. One of the serpentine creatures, a Leviathan the humans called it, passed close to an observation drone. The camera got a clear shot of its head. Its eye was bigger than a person, black and deep and aware. It looked at the camera. It knew it was being watched. Then it opened its mouth and row after row of crystalline teeth appeared, each one sharp enough to cut through starship hull plating. The drone's operator back in the viewing room actually whimpered. This is impossible, the Osium representative said. How did you create such things? Where did they come from? Taeyang appeared on screen next to Hyun. The old scientist's face was serious. We didn't create them. Not from nothing. We evolved them. Enhanced them. But they existed on Earth first in one form or another. Our oceans had creatures like the Leviathans. Our skies had hunters like the dragons. Our deep places had horrors like the krakens. We lived with these things. We survived them. Then we learned to understand them. And finally, we learned to work with them. But how do they survive in space? Someone asked. Creatures need air, water, pressure. Genetic engineering, Taeyang said simply. We adapted them over generations. We gave them organs that process solar radiation for energy. We gave them skin that holds in pressure. We gave them the ability to hibernate for years if needed. We made them perfect for space, perfect for war. The screens shifted to show more data. Information about the creatures scrolled past. Bioelectric weapons that could disable entire fleets with electromagnetic pulses. Regenerative armor that healed itself after damage. Sensory organs that could detect life signs across millions of kilometers. Digestive systems that could process almost any organic matter, including the bodies of enemy species. That last detail made several species in the viewing room look sick. You turned your planet's predators into weapons, the Vraxian commander said slowly. Understanding dawned in its eyes. You weaponized evolution itself. Yes, Hyun said. Every species in the coalition evolved on worlds where they became the apex predators early. You forgot what it means to be prey. Humanity never forgot. For millions of years, we were food for things bigger and stronger than us. We lived in fear of Earth's creatures. But we learned. We adapted. We climbed to the top of the food chain not by being the strongest, but by being smart enough to make the strongest work for us. Bora's tactical display appeared on screen. It showed the creature's capabilities in detail. Speed that no ship could match. Maneuverability that defied physics. Weapons grown from their own bodies. And something else, coordination. The creatures worked together, covering each other's weaknesses, amplifying each other's strengths. They fought as one organism spread across hundreds of bodies. This is what lurked behind us, Hyun continued. Every time we sat in the back of your assembly, every time we stayed quiet, every time you laughed at us, this is what we brought from Earth. This is what we kept secret because we were not sure the galaxy was ready to see it. The human fleet began to move forward, deeper into the outer frontier. The creatures moved with them, flowing around the ships like water, like a living shield. They headed toward where the Vraxian fleet had vanished, toward whatever had killed thousands of warriors. The viewing room was absolutely silent now. No one mocked. No one laughed. They all just watched as humanity and their living weapons disappeared into the darkness. They are going to fight, someone whispered. No, the Vraxian commander said. Its voice was filled with something new. Respect. They are going to hunt. The cameras followed as long as they could. The last image showed one of the Leviathans looking back at the observation drones. Its bioluminescent patterns flashed in a sequence that almost looked like a message. The observation drones caught up to the human fleet 6 hours later. By then, they had reached the graveyard. The cameras showed the wreckage of the Vraxian fleet scattered across space like broken toys. Hull fragments drifted in the void. Escape pods floated empty. Entire warships had been torn apart, their metal peeled back as if something had opened them like cans. In the viewing room, the Vraxian commander made a sound of pain. Those had been its ships, its warriors, its people. The human fleet moved slowly through the debris. The creatures spread out, searching, their massive bodies weaving between the wreckage. One of the krakens extended a tentacle to a damaged escape pod. It pulled the pod close, gentle despite its size, and passed it to a waiting human shuttle. They are looking for survivors, someone said. Surprised. Of course they are. Bora's voice came through the channel. We came to rescue, remember? The search continued for 30 minutes. The creatures found 17 escape pods with living Vraxians inside. Each one was carefully retrieved. The humans were actually saving them. The coalition watched in silence, revising every assumption they had made. Then the sensors went crazy. Every alarm on every observation drone started screaming at once. Something was approaching. Something big. Something that made the electronic systems glitch just from its proximity. Contact, Taeyang announced. His voice was calm but tight. Multiple hostiles incoming. Very large swarm. All units engage. The cameras caught it before anyone in the viewing room could ask questions. Things emerged from the deeper darkness, and they were horror made real. The creatures that had killed the Vraxian fleet revealed themselves. They were organic like the human creatures, but wrong in every way. Each one was the size of a small ship, with bodies made of black chitin that seemed to drink in light. They had too many legs, too many mouths, too many eyes. Mandibles the size of cannons clicked and opened, revealing gullets that glowed with digestive acid. They moved fast, scuttling through space on legs that should not work in vacuum but did anyway. and there were thousands of them. The swarm poured out of the darkness like a wave of living death, chittering and clicking and hungry. The swarm, Taeyang said. Old records call them that. They have been eating civilizations in the dark spaces for longer than most species have existed. They find life and they consume it. They found the Vraxian fleet and saw food. The swarm rushed forward, intent on the human fleet. They had eaten the mighty Vraxians. They would eat these newcomers too. The creatures split into groups, each targeting different ships, coordinating their attack with terrifying intelligence. The coalition observers braced themselves. They expected to see the human fleet torn apart just like the Vraxian ships had been. They expected to witness humanity's destruction. What they saw instead changed everything they thought they knew about war. The human creatures did not run. They attacked. The Leviathans surged forward like living missiles. The first one crashed into a cluster of swarm creatures at incredible speed. Its jaws opened wide, wider than should be possible, and closed on 3 swarm creatures at once. The crystalline teeth sheared through chitin like it was paper. The Leviathan shook its head, and the swarm creatures came apart, their bodies tumbling through space in pieces. The other Leviathans followed. They dove into the swarm formation like sharks into a school of fish. Their scales deflected the swarm's attacks. Mandibles that could tear through warship hulls could not pierce the bioengineered armor. When swarm creatures tried to swarm a Leviathan, its bioluminescent patterns flashed and released an electromagnetic pulse. Every swarm creature within 100 meters went rigid, paralyzed, helpless. The Leviathan ate them while they floated helpless. Impossible, someone in the viewing room whispered. The dragons engaged next. They moved through space in patterns that made no sense but worked perfectly. They flew in spirals and loops, their wings generating fields that let them turn on nothing, moving in ways that physics said should not work but did because biology did not care about what ships could do. They dove through swarm clusters, and as they passed, they released clouds of something. The cameras zoomed in. Microscopic organisms, smaller than dust, billions of them. The clouds enveloped swarm creatures, and within seconds, the swarm started to thrash and convulse. The microscopic hunters were burrowing into them, eating them from the inside out. Swarm creatures tried to scrape them off, tried to escape, but the clouds followed. Within minutes, entire groups of the swarm were reduced to empty husks. They weaponized parasites, the Keltharian hive said, their voices mixing horror and admiration. They turned microscopic life into ammunition. The Krakens entered the battle last, but their impact was immediate. Their tentacles extended, each one kilometers long, lined with hooks that glowed with poison. They grabbed the largest swarm creatures, the ones the size of destroyers, and pulled them close. The hooks sank deep, injecting neurotoxins that shut down nervous systems in seconds. The massive beaks opened and closed, crushing and tearing. One kraken grappled with a swarm creature twice its size. The swarm monster wrapped its own limbs around the kraken, trying to crush it. The kraken's skin rippled, and suddenly hundreds of smaller tentacles emerged from its body, each one finding a weak point in the swarm's armor, injecting more poison, cutting deeper. The swarm creature went limp. The kraken fed, its beak working methodically. The battle raged. Thousands of swarm creatures against hundreds of human assets. It should have been overwhelming. The numbers favored the swarm massively, but numbers did not matter when facing something designed specifically to kill. What terrified the coalition observers most was the coordination. The human creatures fought as one perfect organism. When a Leviathan was surrounded, dragons swept in to clear the attackers before the Leviathan was in real danger. When a kraken grappled a target, Leviathans moved in to finish it quickly. They covered each other, protected each other, made each other stronger. Yun's voice came through the channel, still calm, as if he was commenting on a training exercise instead of a battle for survival. Humanity spent 3 centuries fighting creatures like this in our own solar system. Before we reached the stars, we had to tame our own monsters. We lost cities. We lost millions of people. We learned lessons written in blood. One lesson above all: when you fight monsters, you need to think like a predator, not prey. The swarm tried to adapt. They changed tactics, focusing their attacks on single targets, trying to overwhelm through sheer numbers. 100 swarm creatures piled onto one Leviathan, their mandibles tearing at its scales, their acid burning its skin. The Leviathan roared. The sound transmitted through radio waves that made every speaker in the viewing room crackle. Then its scales flashed bright, so bright the cameras had to adjust. The electromagnetic pulse was massive. Every swarm creature touching it went rigid. The Leviathan shook them off like rain and kept fighting, its scales already regenerating the damage. The swarm tried to flee, splitting up and scattering in different directions. But the dragons hunted them down, their sensory organs tracking each one across millions of kilometers. Packs of dragons chased individual swarm creatures, herding them back toward the Leviathans and Krakens. Nothing escaped. 6 hours. The battle lasted 6 hours. The cameras recorded all of it. The coalition watched as humanity's creatures systematically destroyed a threat that had eaten countless civilizations over eons. They watched as the swarm, which had never retreated in recorded history, finally broke and ran. The remaining swarm creatures scattered into deep space, fleeing in terror from Earth's living weapons. The dragons pursued for a while, ensuring they did not regroup, then returned to the fleet. The battlefield was clear. Thousands of swarm corpses drifted in space. The human fleet had not lost a single ship. A few creatures showed damage, torn scales, wounded tentacles, burn marks from acid. But even as the cameras watched, the wounds were healing, regenerating. The creatures were already ready to fight again. Bora's voice cut through the stunned silence in the viewing room. All units, resume rescue operations. Sweep the area for additional survivors. The creatures, which moments ago had been instruments of destruction, now moved gently through the wreckage again. Leviathans used their massive bodies to shield human shuttles from debris. Dragons lit up the dark corners of broken ships with their bioluminescence. Krakens carefully manipulated wreckage with their tentacles, moving aside tons of metal to reach trapped survivors. Over the next 4 hours, they found 412 Vraxian survivors. Warriors and civilians, some injured, all traumatized. The creatures retrieved them all, passing escape pods and life rafts to human shuttles with surprising gentleness. One camera caught an image that would become famous across the galaxy. A Vraxian warrior pulled from a broken ship, floated in space as a Leviathan approached. The warrior raised a weapon, ready to fight to the end. The Leviathan simply opened its mouth and pushed the warrior gently toward a waiting shuttle with its tongue, then moved away to search for more survivors. In the viewing room, the Vraxian commander stood with tears running down its scaled face. "They saved my people," it said, its voice breaking. "After we mocked them. After we called them weak. They saved us." The human fleet regrouped. The creatures took up protect. 1 week later, the Grand Assembly Hall was full again. But this time, everything was different. When the 3 human delegates entered the hall, every conversation stopped. Species turned to watch them walk down the aisle. No one whispered. No one laughed. Warriors from proud races bowed their heads as the humans passed. The Keltharian hive's drones parted to make way. Even the mighty Ossium representative dimmed its light in respect. Hyun, Bora, and Taeyang walked to the front this time. Not to the back corner where they usually sat. To the front where the powerful species gathered. No one objected. No one questioned it. They had earned their place. The Vraxian High Commander stood waiting. The massive reptilian warrior who had mocked humanity just weeks ago now approached the human delegates and did something that made the entire assembly gasp. It knelt. It lowered itself to one knee and bowed its head. "On behalf of the Vraxian Empire," the commander said, its voice carrying through the silent hall, "I offer gratitude beyond words. You saved 412 of our people. You avenged the thousands we lost. You did this after we treated you with contempt. The Empire owes humanity a debt that spans generations." Hyun helped the commander back to its feet. "We came to help because it was right. No debt is owed. Nevertheless, it exists," the commander said firmly. "The Vraxian Empire will remember." The Speaker of the Assembly called the session to order. Its 6 eyes focused on Hyun. "The Coalition has watched the recordings from the outer frontier. We have seen what humanity is capable of. We have questions. Many questions. Then we will answer," Hyun said. He gestured and Taeyang activated a holographic display. The Coalition asked what humanity brings to this alliance. "We have been quiet about the answer because we were not sure you were ready to hear it. We were not sure we were ready to share it. But after recent events, we believe it is time for the truth." The hologram showed Earth. The blue planet rotated slowly, beautiful and peaceful looking. Then the image zoomed in, showing Earth's oceans. What swam in those depths made several species recoil. Massive creatures moved through the water. Whales bigger than ships, sharks with teeth like knives, squid with tentacles that could crush submarines. The images were old, from before humanity's technological age, but the size and power of Earth's sea creatures was undeniable. Earth is not like your homeworlds, Taeyang began. His old voice filled the hall. Most of you evolved on planets where you became the apex predators early in your development. You had competition, yes, but you won quickly. You rose to the top of your food chains and stayed there. The images changed, showing different alien homeworlds. Peaceful grasslands, gentle forests, oceans with small harmless creatures. The contrast with Earth was stark. Humanity did not have that luxury, Taeyang continued. We evolved on a death world. Every ecosystem on Earth was a battlefield. The oceans were ruled by creatures that could eat us whole. The forests had predators that hunted in packs. The skies had birds that could carry away our children. We were not the strongest. We were not the fastest. We were not the biggest. We were prey. The hologram showed early humans, small and vulnerable, running from massive predators, hiding in caves, watching the darkness with fear in their eyes. For millions of years we were food, Hyun said. We were hunted. We were eaten. We lived in constant terror of the things that shared our planet. Other species ask why humans seem paranoid, why we prepare for worst cases, why we see threats everywhere. This is why. Our ancestors who did not see threats did not survive long enough to have children. Bora stepped forward. But we learned. We adapted. We made tools and weapons. We used fire. We built shelters. Slowly, very slowly, we climbed the food chain. Not by being stronger than our predators, but by being smarter. By working together. By using our minds to overcome what our bodies could not. The images showed human history. Tribes hunting mammoths. Villages defending against cave lions. Cities building walls against the wild. Each generation fighting to survive. We reached the top of the food chain on Earth, Bora continued. But we never forgot the journey. We remembered what it meant to be hunted. And we remembered the creatures that hunted us. The hologram changed to show more recent history. Humans studying animals. Capturing them. Learning from them. The images showed laboratories and research facilities, but also showed respect. Scientists working carefully with dangerous creatures, understanding their behavior, their biology, their place in the ecosystem. When we developed advanced technology, Taeyang said, we had a choice. We could eliminate Earth's predators, make our planet safe. Many species do this. They wipe out anything dangerous and reshape their world into a garden. We chose differently, Hyun said quietly. We chose to preserve our predators, to protect them, to understand them. Because we realized something important. Those creatures made us strong. Fighting them, surviving them, learning from them made us what we are. We owed them our existence. The hologram showed vast nature preserves on Earth. Oceans teeming with life. Forests with apex predators roaming free. Instead of destroying their planet's dangerous creatures, humans had saved them. Then we developed genetic engineering, Taeyang continued. The hologram showed laboratories filled with DNA sequences. We had the ability to modify life itself. And we asked ourselves, what if we could work with our predators instead of just living alongside them? What if we could make them partners? The images showed the process, carefully enhancing animals, giving them greater intelligence, adapting them for new environments, always with respect, always with caution. The process had taken centuries. We started small, Bora explained. Dogs and horses were ancient allies. We expanded to dolphins working with us in the oceans, falcons helping us hunt. We learned how to communicate with creatures that thought differently than us. We learned how to earn their trust and loyalty. When we began exploring space, Hyun said, we realized the vacuum was similar to Earth's oceans, vast, dark, full of unknown dangers. So we adapted our ocean predators for space. We gave them the ability to survive in vacuum. We gave them weapons to defend themselves and us. We gave them purpose. The hologram showed the process, creatures being enhanced, trained, prepared. Years of work, generations of breeding and modification. The leviathans descended from deep-sea predators. The dragons from aerial hunters and extinct flying reptiles. The krakens from the most intelligent ocean creatures. What you saw at the outer frontier, Taeyang said, were our partners, not slaves, not mindless weapons. They choose to fight with us. We feed them, care for them, protect them. In return, they protect us. It is symbiosis. It is cooperation between species. It is what humanity does best. The Osium representative spoke up, its voice uncertain. But how do you control them? How do you ensure they do not turn on you? We do not control them, Hyun said simply. We lead them. There is a difference. Control requires force. Leadership requires respect. Those creatures trust us because we have proven ourselves trustworthy over centuries. They fight for us because we fight for them. And if they chose not to fight? The Keltharian hive asked. Then we would not force them, Bora said. But that has never happened. They understand what we face. They understand the threats in space. They want to fight because that is what they were made for. That is their purpose, and they embrace it. The hologram shifted to show more data, numbers that made the assembly go quiet. The creatures they had seen were not all of them. Not even close. Earth had thousands more in reserves. Larger ones. More dangerous ones. Creatures designed for specific threats. Some still being developed. Some sleeping until needed. The coalition has existed for thousands of years, Hyun said, his voice taking on an edge. In all that time, you have fought your wars with ships and weapons and technology. You have forgotten that life itself can be a weapon. You have forgotten that evolution created things more terrible than any machine. He looked around the hall, meeting the eyes of dozens of species. Humanity remembers. We lived with terror for millions of years. We learned to respect it, to understand it, to wield it. Taeyang closed the hologram. When the coalition invited us to join 30 years ago, you saw a young species with modest technology. You saw a civilization that controlled one small system. You did not ask what we had in our oceans, what we kept in our habitats, what we brought with us from Earth. You laughed at us, Bora said, and her voice was hard now. You mocked us for being quiet, for sitting in the back, for contributing little. You never asked why we were so quiet. You never wondered if perhaps we were being careful, cautious, restraining something. The assembly was absolutely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. They all understood now. Humanity sits in the back of this assembly, Hyun said, not because we are weak, but because we are trying very hard to be civilized. We are trying to be peaceful. We are trying to be diplomatic. We are trying to be like you, comfortable, confident, secure in our power. He paused, and his tired eyes suddenly looked very sharp. But we are not like you. We are the species that was prey. We are the species that had to claw our way to the top of the food chain, while being hunted by things that wanted to eat us. We are the species that looks at apex predators and sees allies instead of threats.